I talk quite fast, yeah? Only 7 minutes. Okay, so maybe you can ask me a question later on. Yeah, so Purwadhika, I studied in 1987, so it has been 35 years already, yeah? So we focus actually on vocational, providing skill, talent in digital technology, okay? So we first, the journey begins with a computer designer school. So I taught about hardware and software design, expecting to design a computer system, as you know, during that time, yeah. But then the time moved on, the technology evolved. We have done a lot of exhibition showing all the students' results, projects, right, in designing the hardware and software system. Go on, next. Yeah, and then in 1991, we have the privilege, the only one ever invited by Mr. Professor Vijay Habibi to participate in what we call research and technology annual exhibition. Usually, it's only governmental corporations and universities that can participate in this exhibition. So we are prepared as well to be visited, especially by Mr. President Suharto. As you can see at the middle picture, we present our students' project like the touch map. You use a paper map, but inside the map there are so many wiring. It's connected to a video player. During that time, no CD player. So it has to be precise to find exactly when you point to a town, like say a city, Jakarta, then the video player should search for the video about Jakarta, yeah? And the rest like multi-monitor. And then we continue with startup and coding school because in 1990, startups are growing up along with the internet technology. So my school tried to participate, to contribute to help people to build startups. But we discontinue with that because from my experience, we find out that in Indonesia, it's very difficult to find people with entrepreneur spirit. Yeah, they just want to build startup, to be rich, to look for money fast. Okay, that's the problem. So then I changed again the focus now. As a digital technology school, we are ready actually to support the digital ecosystem in accelerating the digital transformation, especially in Indonesia, by providing the talents, the human resources needed by many startups like Tokopedia, Bukalapak, and many companies, not only in Indonesia, but across Southeast Asia, even in USA. Even the Minister of Telecommunication give a special message to me, please prioritize Indonesia first, because the scarcity of the talents is actually very high. Yeah. Okay. So what program do we have? I create a program, I call it Job Connector program. So it's my personal branding. It's Job Connector means a program only for 4 months intensive immersive program on campus or live streaming or video learning. There are 3 methods. So by that, after the students graduated, they will right away work at our 1,000 plus hiring partners. Yeah. So the program that we have, they may choose whether to become a developer, full stack development, they become digital marketer, they can become data scientist, UI UX designer, even product managers. So this is the currently top needed talents in the industry. Next. Okay, so we go international, as I mentioned, we are exporting the digital talents across Asia. It's not actually my purpose, and yeah, honestly, it's my purpose to go international, but I think it's the students' right to choose where do they want to go to work, right? So even I'm the one who produced the talents. I cannot force the talents to work for my company. Okay, I have no privilege for that. So we have been going international. We started our first batch Job Connector International program with students from Singapore, Vietnam, Thailand, Brazil, Pakistan, Hong Kong, Dubai, and even Africa. Okay, we go next. And also Purwadhika, starting next year, we have a Purwadhika College program. as the answer for the gap between the universities and industries, because employers do not need knowledge and degree but skills. So we combine the curriculum with our Job Connector program. Currently, we are collaborating with university from Germany and from UK. Okay, so we provide a short program, 3 years program, 2 years in Indonesia. The last year go abroad, but they will get a degree, bachelor degree or master degree, along with my bootcamp certificates. So that means they will even can get a job while studying before even graduate from the program. Okay, so we are expanding throughout Indonesia, starting next year. We are currently open in Sudirman, Jakarta, Grand Office Park BSD, and Nongsa Digital Park Batam. So we will open in Bandung, Jogja, Surabaya, Medan, Makassar, and more by next year. Maybe I will explain further why I can become so aggressive based on the research that I find out. So I will use an airplane business model to give an equal opportunity for all social level in Indonesia. The same quality but different classes. Yeah, we know that in Sudirman is the most premium property, right? Place, location. But in Jogja, it's much more cheaper. So that means I have a lower cost, then I will also lower the fee, right? So that means it becomes affordable for most Indonesian people. Okay, next. Now this is the six main problems I want to share with you. Problem 1 is the buying power of Indonesian market. As we know that most Indonesians are living in the poor below level, right? Below. So it's very difficult for me. In one way, I have to provide a high quality education, and then I need a high quality, highly paid lecturer, of course, and the rest, the facility you can go on. But then the buyer cannot afford it. So how to balance that? That's my one problem. Problem 2 is the social skills quality, such as perseverance. Okay, even if I give scholarship for the students, it's still 50-50. Right now, it's 50% of the graduation level. I mean, graduation percentage in my program. You know, because the perseverance, the culture, yeah, such as the self-study ability, the language barrier. Till right now, English language is still very difficult for most Indonesian university students. Okay, and also the responsibility. So problem 3 is the degree-minded or mindset. Yeah. So parents in Indonesia, even Mr. Jokowi, our president, acknowledged the problem because Indonesian think mostly the most important is to get a degree. That's it. For future life, even maybe their children do not have a good job, it doesn't matter. As long as you get a degree, you make me proud. That's it, maybe that's the mindset, okay? But my school is actually a non-degree program, okay? The purpose is different. So there's a challenge for me to really sell that kind of program. Problem 4 is the lack of good lecturers, okay? When I first began the school, I become a single teacher. I teach the whole program for 10 months from the beginning till the end. Because why? We cannot find a good lecturer. As you know, that's the most important component in education, is a good lecturer. If you don't have it, forget it. Yeah. So problem 5, it's hard to get student loans. Okay. Most of my target, they don't have money. They are willing to learn, but it's expensive. Okay. I tried to collaborate with many banks, but all the banks I give up. It's sorry. In fact, in Indonesia it happens. You know, motorcycles. They can pay 500,000 IDR to get a motorcycle right away, credit. But after that, they are gone, not responsible. You know, that's the problem. Yeah, we want to support them. They don't have money, but in one way, they are not responsible. Right? So this is my challenge. Okay. So problem 6 is corporate human resource development culture. In Indonesia, I find out not like in other countries. Okay. In Indonesia, most corporations they don't care. Sorry to say that. Yeah, they don't care about human resource development. They don't care about spending budget on employees' education. You know what I mean, right? So it's very difficult then for me to find a model where the corporate will finance the students to study, and then once they graduate, it worked for the companies. It worked only for several companies, yeah, but not mostly. So that's the challenges I found in Indonesia. Even in fact, I may say maybe I'm starting the business at the wrong location. Okay, yeah. But I survive and succeed anyway. So right now, Purwadhika has a student around 3,000 a year. Okay, but actually it could be more than that. Yeah, I forget. Maybe I skipped the slide that Mr. Jokowi came to visit us in BSD on last year December. I don't know, the slide is missing maybe, or I skipped. But I mentioned to him that that the problem actually we can get, because Indonesia needs talents also, millions of talents. But the problem is why I cannot get more students. Okay, but now next year I expect by using that airplane model, I expect to have more, maybe 10,000 students a year. Okay, by lowering my tuition fee. That's all. Maybe I like to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Purwa. So I actually have a follow-up question on what you're presenting just now. As you know, a lot of people are saying that we have new, what we call COVID generation students. So I'm just wondering, from your point of view right now, has there been any changes on the students' expectation before COVID and after COVID?
Okay. During the COVID times, my program all run through live streaming. Yeah. Thank you for Zoom. That is the cheapest technology available during that time. So if talking about the expectation of the young people, honestly, I have to say that the awareness is still quite low among the Indonesian young people. Okay, even I have to educate them what is digital technology. Okay, so sometimes they are still looking for degrees that is actually going to be obsolete. Another problem is actually the universities, mostly in Indonesia, they are also not updated. Okay, I think that's the main problem. But some of the youngsters that realize that, of course, they expect a good future, yeah, in the digital economy. Yeah, if they can get digital skills, they believe, because there are so many proof in my social media, the testimonial of our alumni, they can get a good job, highly paid. Okay. So that's maybe their expectation after the COVID. They expect that the job placement or the hiring will be more accelerating. Yeah, but lately we heard the news, so many layoff, right, from even big startups. It also discouraged them. But in fact, my school, it's still running, it's still okay. So I just try to convince them. Okay, still pursue the digital knowledge for investment on yourself for the future. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to move on to Mr. Shabana to tell us about his experience right now.
So I'm going to probably be the shortest of my panelists. I'm going to start by a little story. Right after the MBA program, I straight away came to Bali, start a conference and a venture fund that connects startups with foreign capital, US capital, and it was mostly startups based in Southeast Asia. That was around 2017. We were successful to get over 50 venture capital funds here, and the deals closed were around 1.2 billion for the next 2 years that resulted after that conference. It was the first thing that I did, and I really believe that there is a gap between founders that want to build something remote and the access to foreign capital. And that's why that connection was successful, and it still is. And if you take a look at the numbers right now, 25% of the workforce right now in the US is estimated to be remote, and it's over $30,000 outpaid by the non-remote work. Companies like Upwork, I don't know if you guys know, just a random example, they generated only, like last year, $2.5 billion connecting different talents with US companies or companies in Southeast Asia. So the trend is just it's inevitable, and having that that DNA in whatever you're working, whether it's an education startup or a grade school or a company startup or not startup, it has to happen and has to be fully embraced, because everybody, whether you're a talent or a CEO, you want that flexibility to have more diversity, whether you want to connect with artists in Portugal or developers in Bali or venture capitalists in Silicon Valley or California. So this is just, everybody here now, it's a proof again that this is going to grow exponentially, especially after COVID. Everybody's so hungry and eager to make this a lifestyle. You don't want to be, as much as people would want to have some discipline, still people want to have that freedom to be creative and still deliver. So we, by 2025, again in the US I have some numbers, that it's over 30 million Americans will be fully remote. So I think this, like this session, we can keep talking for hours and hours. I think my panelists will going to share more numbers and insights about that. But the appetite, even pre-COVID, was there, and now after COVID happened, it assured that this is only a growing trend. Yeah, I didn't prepare any presentation, but I'm happy to leave some room for questions. Back then, we did that conference over 12 cities. 3 of them were in Bali, so the last time in Bali was 2019. Over 600 companies were funded. The case studies were great, like and how you see the transfer of skill and talent between countries is just a great case study for what we're trying to do. The last thing I would love to share is a company that we venture built a healthcare startup company right before COVID, connecting wholesale healthcare supplies with large entities. So when COVID happened, we had hospitals, even the US government, was very interested to getting, as long as they're FDA approved, like getting these wholesale supplies, either they're Mexico or China, as long as they meet US standards, have these items immediately. So being able to connect with different airlines for cargo to ship and suppliers all over the world to help different countries, including the US government, was a great proof that you can run a remote workforce to solve complex problems during COVID. Yeah.
So a follow-up question to your talk just now, because you were mentioning remote work, and you were mentioning that in the future it's going to be about 30 million, right? But how about now? Like, for example, because we have the IBER 45 here, how do they navigate this if they do want to do fully remote? I'm not saying about hybrid. Hybrid, there's a lot of companies that's already allowing it. It's pretty common nowadays. But how about the ones that want to do fully remote work from home?
Well, I think it depends on the kind of job you want. If they really want a corporate job, they have to be a little flexible. I don't think you can just go into an interview and say, okay, I'm only going to work from home. So you gotta have some middle ground, but a lot of startups now, this is the natural. So if you want to go that route, I think it's easier to say, okay, this is what I want. I want to be fully remote, unless you need me for an emergency or something like that. But you got to be realistic, of course. And also, if you're interested to work not just in the US, if you want to work in Southeast Asia, I think it's the hottest market now. Over 10 billion last quarter, 10 billion in foreign direct investment just in Indonesia, and that's 66% more than last year, and that's excluding oil and gas. So being very conservative, 10% of that would be technology and education. I think being open to just not non-US based, but maybe international Southeast Asian companies that would open markets maybe in the US or overseas. I think having an open approach to different possibilities is better, not just, because I know everybody's, once you graduate, you're going to just stay in the US, but being a little open for a better position, you might be able to move back to the US or have a better opportunity.
All right, so I'll go to Will to talk a little bit more about his experience.
So when I was a boy growing up, I used to love building clubhouses. I built tree houses, forts on stilts, underground caves, and I even built a bamboo hut underneath a mango tree. So imagine my 10-year-old self sitting in my clubhouse, and I just loved the environment that I'd created there. I used to love building these structures. And then I realized there's something missing. What's missing? It's friends, right? People to share the clubhouse with. But then I had this fear, because I was so happy in my clubhouse, but then I had this fear, if I bring other people in, what will happen? Will they be unkind to each other? Will they spoil the mojo I'm feeling there? Will they not want to come back? And so I put some rules up on the side of the clubhouse. Rules like, don't litter, don't disclose the secret location to adults, and always was be nice to each other. See? And I remember one time when Daigoro and Stuart were arguing about who should light the fire. And I said, hey guys, wait, remember, we all agreed. And I point to the rules on the side of the treehouse. And I think those are magic words when we talk about creating environments for work and education, is we all agreed. And so those values are so important. They didn't think I was being bossy. They just said, oh yeah, sorry, Will, that's the rules. Okay, let's play by the rules. And I think this is something that leaders are not doing enough of in the world today. And I have found that when we lead with values, when we help everybody around us behave in concert with those values, then life is easier, life is better, people make decisions the same way, those are healthier environments, those are safer environments for everybody. And then the most creative and performing, our most creative and best performing selves come out in those situations. And so this is the work that I'm passionate about, and it's what I've made popular with my books, is helping people create cultures where people thrive so they can be the best that they can be. And we're facing a lot of problems in the workplace and education today, right? Things like the Great Resignation, making people come back to the office, remote work, hybrid work. And people, one big thing since COVID is especially, people want to feel meaning and purpose to their work, right? And they don't need your lousy job. They don't need to show up just for a paycheck anymore because they have choices, right? If you're in the Philippines and you work for a lousy company, you can work for a call center and be for an American company, or do executive administration or something, working from home. And I don't believe that they are responsible for the cultures. We are. The leaders are responsible for those environments that we build. So with all the issues that we're facing, I believe the difference between whether people want to stay at your company, be loyal, work in an engaged way, as opposed to a disengaged way. And Gallup do this research, and it's not just American research, they do this research all over the world, and they've done it for years. And they find everywhere they go that on average, 2/3, so the majority of all employees, are disengaged in the workplace. They are not giving their best. They are showing up for a paycheck. But those third that are engaged, those are the ones that do more, care more, go further, go above and beyond. And so this is what I think the main thing we can do. And there's a lot of division in the world today, especially in America. In America, we can't talk about politics anymore because you're either way over there or you're way over there. And there's immediately this, kind of division. And so when we talk about values, then we can bring people together, unify people around a set of common values. I was recently asked to help a school district in rural Indiana. And the superintendent asked me to come and help with the teachers because of the low culture the low morale amongst the 100 teachers in the school. And I said, but wait, in this environment, what about the students? Oh yeah, there's 1,000 of them. What about the parents? Oh yeah, the school's really important in our community. And then what about the board of directors? And there's so many problems. We do a survey, so many problems in the school. Bullying, people jumping the line, disrespecting teachers, all these behaviors. But we asked them, what values can we agree on? And they came together around some values. And we are seeing a huge change in the school. The way everybody interacts, the way people are behaving, and also the performance going up. So I would like to think that leading with values is a great place to start when we talk about the future of work and education.
Thank you for your explanation. One interesting that I found from your talk just now is about value and about how divisive everything is. But then at the same time, nowadays in the US, and I believe in many parts of the world as well, that has been pushing diversity. But then diversity is sometimes can be questionable in a lot of companies, because they would say in their values, they value diversity, they value different mindset and whatnot. But then when you go in to the companies and work for them, apparently they're not. Like you were saying earlier, oh, this is my rule. You have to do this, you have to do that. So how do you think companies supposed to implement what they say, diversity, in their company culture? At the same time, how could new graduates or would-be graduate navigate around this when they're applying for jobs and for the future?
Yes, thank you. I love it. So I definitely encourage anybody that's looking for where they're going to work, where they're going to commit so much of their time, right? At least 8 hours a day, where they're going to put themselves. And one way to check out that company, if you like, is to try and establish what do they believe? What are their values? And sometimes those are stated on the website, but really it's talking to the employees is what's going to really help you know what is the culture really like on the inside and what are those values. And so if diversity is a value, and by the way, there are lots of examples, you're right, Caroline, of companies that say diversity is a value, but they don't act that way. And I think we heard yesterday, didn't we, that politicians will say what they may agree on something, but do they actually do what they agree? So I would encourage folks to really test that, and are those values really existent there? So how great a job we do with stating the values, the culture in an organization, like diversity. People will follow, human beings naturally will follow two things. They'll follow one, what are the leaders doing? So if the leaders of the company are absolutely acting in concert, in alignment with the value of diversity, then we will see diversity. If they don't, it won't happen. The other thing is incentives. What incentives do we have in the system to encourage, the right behaviors? So I love to think that if diversity is a value, that we are, from the very beginning, we are wanting to hire people that share that value of diversity in their hearts. And we test that with behavioral-based questioning before they come into the company. And then, of course, the value is alive within the organization by people constantly teaching that. And then to the alignment part, measure it. Measure the improvement of our diversity over time. And there's so much data, isn't there, Caroline, on diversity, about the most diverse companies are the most successful, the most healthy, the most creative, the most international, the most global, the most appealing to people, consumers of every kind of culture. So it's a great example talking about diversity and value. Thank you.
So the next part, I'd like to ask each panelist if you all have any questions to each other, because for example, Purwa is really much in education and vocational school, not so much in traditional school, but in vocational school, and how you would actually kind of come back with what we're saying about diversity, how to prepare them, and then because we're talking about the future of work right now. Ahmed was saying, okay, in about future, we will have 30 million companies probably or whatnot that's going to probably allow remote work. Then at the same time, how would you actually prepare them for doing remote work?
Talking about remote or on camp or offline, yeah, offline or online. For me, I think that's just a matter of choices, option. Okay. In my opinion, that for every company, including my school, we have to be prepared to be adaptable, okay, to every situation, because like Ahmed mentioned, right, we cannot say the best way to work is remote, or yeah, right, it depends on the department, right, what kind of job they're working, everything like that. In fact, I want to share the facts that I found out. One is from the Harvard Business Journal, and secondly, from my research on my own, that technology cannot replace the best way of education, which is face-to-face. Okay, so that's the fact. Even now, with all the options available, my students still prefer to study on campus, even it's the most expensive. Okay, the fact it says also like in retail, like Shopee, Tokopedia, Amazon cannot replace retail for supporting our wants, not our needs, right? If we are talking our needs, maybe we want to find diapers or tissue, right? That's our needs. It's okay, you can go online, mass, right? But for wants, like woman's purse, right? The most expensive, right? That you cannot go online. Forever it will go on brick, on site. Okay, so that's the fact why I'm aggressively expanding my school, because that's the fact I found out. The students prefer to study on site, on campus, face to face, because why? They also can make friends, okay, networking. Especially in Indonesia, like I mentioned, they are lacking in the self-study, self-dependent study way. Yeah, they're really dependent to lecturer. They need to ask question and question and question, right? Cannot be independent. So that's the fact. So as a business man, I open the school. I have to adapt to really the situation, especially in Indonesia, right?
So I just have a question. How are recruiters, the local recruiters, are responding to what you're doing? Are you mostly focused on like a reverse engineering strategy? Okay, we have meetings with these top interested recruiters in that new system, and then we go back to what's being taught, or it's halfway, or how does it actually work here in Indonesia, or if you have an experience with the other countries you mentioned?
Okay, so maybe the question, if I'm not wrong, how do I really make 100% recruitment percentage, right? So
as much as you can, yeah.
Right? So actually we do research. At my school we have a team, R&D team. The work of them is to really analyze and do continue research to the startup company. There are those that needs the talents. Because especially in talking about computer, digital, it's very dynamic, right? I have to change curriculum from time to time. Because if you talk to, for example, a big startup, unicorn, they change the technology. Before they use this, then they use another. So we have to adopt, we have to adapt. In order, our alumni will be instantly, can be hired by them. So it's very tiring job, tiring process. We cannot say, maybe in university, we are so general, right? It's not very specific to the skill needed by the startup, but it cannot be the same way with me, with my school. I have to provide in 4 months the skill that the talent I generate is really ready to use. Yeah, so that's a challenge. So for me to build a good school, successful school, first you need the lecturer, second is the curriculum. Okay, especially for me, vocational school, I have good lecturer. Even from startups, they retire and they move, they work for me. But the curriculum, if it's far, then what's the industry needs, it's not aligned to the industry needs, then it's not going to be successful. They will not hire my alumni, right? Okay.
I'd like to open the floor for any questions to our panelists. Please state your name and then your question.
Yes, Kevin McAuliffe. I'd like to ask about continuous education. So those of us running companies or working in companies, the world's changing very quickly, as we've heard earlier, innovation, cloud computing. It's changing so quickly, yet we don't have the resources, smaller SMEs don't have the resources internally to train for many of the new, the knowledge that you have to utilize for the new technologies. What's happening with continuous education?
Do you mind reiterate your question? Is it about continuous?
So for employees of companies to keep upskilling them with third-party education.
So basically, how do you do further continuous education for companies that actually need these people for their continuing education? So not just like from a basic standpoint of secondary education. Yes.
I think talking about the corporation training maybe, yeah? Yeah, because I sell to corporate and retail, right? For corporate, I think it depends on the corporation as well. This is a sad fact if we are talking about Indonesia again, right? We are abroad, we are talking about digital transformation. Many companies in Indonesia still maybe, I don't care. As long as I'm making money, why should I adopt that technology so soon? Okay, so that's a problem in creating the awareness of the corporation, right? But big corporations like Telkomsel, maybe BCA, right? Big, good, they are aware of that. So we provide, even they are our regular customer, okay? So they aware already because they are doing digital transformation in the company, so they need the digital talents right away, yeah? So actually, if talking about curriculum again, lecturer, I think we always to do research on the development, yeah, the progress, what's happening.
Yes, what I've seen, a couple of things that I've seen work very well in companies that are wanting to do this. And you're right to raise this issue because, McKinsey did some research that showed that the #1 reason that people are leaving companies, even when they don't have another job to go to, right? That's how much they don't like where they are. They're leaving even when they don't have another job to go to, is an uncaring boss. What does uncaring boss means? One of them is they don't care about my development. So what I've seen some companies do well is they have a budget, and of course you need to be able to afford this, but if you can have a budget for employees to do some training, pick a number, $2,500 a year per employee or something, and then let them elect how they want to spend that. And we don't judge it. We let them, if they want to, it may or may not be specifically tied to the role they're doing, but if that feeds them and it helps them grow, I find that can really increase loyalty, and it's pretty cool what people will do. And actually how I think when they come back from those training courses, how transformed they might feel, how more loyal they might feel about that. So, and I've heard some companies say if you leave within 12 months of doing it, you've got to pay the money back. You can sort of maybe tie them in that way, but yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I'll pass it on to you after. So I've got a question for Will, who's Paul Wilson. So Will, you talked about the importance of culture, and you used the education district in Illinois as an example. And so clearly somebody recognized that the 100 or so teachers, things were not working well. There was probably some performance metrics and so on. How do you, before you actually get the group together, there must be a step where people have to think about their own values and what's important to them. And I'm curious if you could talk about that a little bit, because it also relates to the comment that you made about the IBER students, or anyone thinking about, like, if I want to join a certain company, and I totally agree with you, by the way, what's on the website is probably true to some degree, but it's really talking to those who are working there to get a sense of the culture or maybe the microculture within that specific office or country. But the point of kind of connecting your personal values and identifying what's important to you before you actually take that step of creating that culture.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, my example of the sort of rules in the treehouse, that's a bit like what we call core values today in companies. Core values or code of conduct or beliefs, people call them different things. But the point is, how do we get to those? What I've found is, historically, companies get to that by the executive team sitting around, deciding what they want the values to be, and then sort of rolling it out, telling everybody, hey everybody, get on board or get left behind, these are our values. And of course, what is everyone doing? If you're throwing values at them, they say, well, do I agree with those? Are those me? And I think the buy-in can be very low. The process that we like, and the way we began with that school district in rural Indiana, was a survey. And you begin the survey, you just ask all of them, what are the values that we value in this organization? And you look for what the common threads are. And then we go into a workshop mode, and we ask again, what are the values that we value? So they're not aspirational, we're not dreaming them up. They exist within us today. And it was so funny enough, this school district in Covington, Indiana, they are also the Trojans. So I definitely felt an affinity going there. And one of the things I learned is when I just went and started asking students, and look, we're talking about high school students who are a little bit checked out today. And by the way, the problems in schools that we're seeing are burnout, teacher burnout, disrespectful behaviors between students and teachers and students. Teachers not stepping in when they see bullying happening, right? And I think it's because they don't have a language. They don't know how. So part of what we do is we help them have a language to step in. So a teacher can say, hey, point to the values on the wall. This is a no bullying environment. We don't speak to each other like that. And it's up there kind of in red and white. So, so to answer your question, I think the way is, it's not droned at the top and pushed down. We get everybody involved. And then what are the common values? So we might have 100 values on the wall during a workshop, but then what are the 4 or 5 that really matter to us? And when we asked the students, funnily enough, they said academic excellence. The teachers didn't come up with that as a value, but the students did. Another one was Trojan pride. So we said, what do we mean by Trojan pride? This is very important. What do we mean by that value? So what do we mean by Trojan pride? Inclusion, diversity, and that sort of thing. And then my dream is that, on the playing field, let's say, one student says to another student, when they see a behavior that's not kind going on, that they call on the values. Hey, that's not Trojan pride. Look at the shirt you're wearing, We don't put people down, we lift people up. So, thank you. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
Ibu?
Yes, I would like to address culture that covers not just the school or the marketplace. I think it's the engagement of both. Like oftentimes what we teach in the schools are things that are not necessary for the marketplace. It's like they don't talk to each other. And then the marketplace are expecting the graduates to be this kind of relevant to the marketplace, but then they are not. And questions like, I'm making kind of comments and you kind of, if I'm off or something. Questions like, why do we teach things that don't matter in the marketplace? Or why do we produce graduates who are not effective at work? Like business people not being taught what to do with bankruptcy, how to deal with themselves with failure and all. And then the other thing, I think it's because the marketplace is not really engaged or involved in perhaps the development of the students, in the curriculum. I think they have to speak to each other. It's kind of like both should be involved in how the citizens ought to be to help transform society, how they can be highly effective in that sense. So like you're talking about innovations and advancement, for example. You're talking about the one in technology. It's like, what are the things? You're talking about culture. How do we create such a culture where they talk to one another? There's a learning contract, that there is respect, and there is also the way of preparing. COVID, it's like a tsunami that came unearthing something. Well, there was a seminar that was done in Harvard, and they said COVID unearthed things that were there already before, but we kind of ignored them. And a lot of the things have to do with the learners, and we ignore them a lot. Why are they bullying? Why are they not engaged? Because they're not interested, because they're being taught things that they know will never apply in the marketplace. So I'm just thinking, I think there's a missing factor here. Don't you agree with me? That they're not talking to each other. There's got to be an engagement to a point wherein there's unity. That these are the kind of citizens we want to produce that would effect transformation in the marketplace. Am I off here?
No,
So my question
did
is-
anybody have Professor Schick in statistics? Remember that? No? Was it just Ivy 16? I remember getting taught statistics, you know, and wondering how that was going to apply in business, what use that would be to me. But gosh, you know, as a business person after IBER 16, I just go back to macroeconomics, microeconomics, those things that I learned, and I do see the relevance of them. But there's still so many things, aren't there, that we don't get taught, that we really do need. I mean, in my case, I'll go on about values. Nobody talked to us about leading with values and how powerful that is. We had to kind of sort of figure that out for myself. And I do think that education is definitely, you know, the establishments and the way we teach are not keeping up with the changing world. But I think real answer to your question is to match that disconnect. That is really what you're doing, where you're integrated with businesses, you know, and events like this, where we're integrating business with education. And so, I mean, full credit to you. You said you've got something like 1,000 business partners, you know, so I think that's the intersection, and it's imperfect, but hopefully it's going in the right direction.
I would say, though, that the government has to be engaged to a point, allowing the institutions not to be too traditional and keep following a curriculum that is no longer as effective, something like that. And also the marketplace has to be more assertive in the expectations of the graduates, so then there is that kind of a change.
Okay. So, any questions so far from the panel? All right. Finally, we get someone from the IBER 45.
Nice to meet you. I am Yukari from Japan. I'm IBER 45, and I have a question about to Mr. Hartono, like about the school and how I want to know the sources of the revenues for the school. Is it only tuition, or do you get any subsidy from the government because it is related to education? Or
I'm very sorry, I cannot hear clearly.
Sorry.
My hearing maybe has a problem right
No,
now.
my hearing.
Yeah.
And please state your name again.
I am Yukari.
Can I get the government subsidy?
Yes,
Right.
besides the
That's, I
tuition.
pray for that. Okay. Yeah. But actually, it's not really, right? Because like the education minister, you know, from Gojek, Nadine, he implemented a program called Mahasiswa Merdeka, something like that. But the budget, they provide only 1,000 IDR per hour per student. 1,000 rupiah. You know 1,000?
Yes.
It's how many?
That's,
$10 of dollar,
something
right?
cents.
Less than $10 of dollar. I cannot join the program. Because why? I cannot find a lecturer with that little income, you know. So I think government is still not serious in subsidizing. So actually what I like, what I pray for, the government should provide the fund the funding. Because I find like venture capital, everyone, they do not want to take the risk to finance students that are 50% graduate or pass, you know. How can they want to finance the student and then pay the loan back after they work? If it's still 50-50, they will graduate or not. You know, it's so risky. So actually the only answer is the government should come in this. That's still we are waiting for.
So is it only the tuition that you get revenue from?
Say that again?
Oh, is it only, is the source of your revenue only tuition?
Oh, okay. So, right now, we have been working with a startup, a fintech called Danacita, which want to take the risk to give a finance. But the finance should be paid for before even graduation. You know what I mean, right? And then my curriculum is very short time, only 4 months. So that means the student can only finance for 4 times. You know, 4 months, it's very short. And the amount for my tuition fee is 46 million. 46 million. So if you divide by 4, it's about 10 millions, right? And then it's quite high still for most Indonesian market. Yeah. So actually, I'm expecting if there is a fintech, right, I would like to take the risk to finance the student and hoping that the student will be able to repay. Now, if we are talking about the fee is 46 millions. And then the salary they get when they get the first job is 8 millions. So if you divide it 46 by 8, it's only 6 months. In 6 months, actually, they can repay the loan. But the question is, who wants to take the risk? So if you ask me then, maybe my ambition next time is I want to build a fintech for that, if it's possible. So I try to finance my students alone, but it's a headache, you know, because why? Again, they are not responsible. They don't remember when they have to pay the terms. you know what I mean, right? And then more than that, sometimes they are not responsible. They do not continue the education, and then they do not. Well, I don't know where they run away, something like that. And if I report to the police, it's more money again, right? So it's a complicated problem in Indonesia. This is what I may share with you, right? So for my suggestion, don't open education in Indonesia if you don't know, have the strength, spirit, because I have a passion. Yeah, actually, I didn't want to go back to Indonesia. If you should know, I opened a company already in US. Okay. But because my passion that I want to go back to help Indonesia, to build the people, then I'm here. Woo!
Thank you.
I just want to add to this. What if it's like what Iber does, the company-sponsored model? Like you would have a private sector, okay, we're going to have 10 people for 4 months at your school, but it's the private sector, it's not the government.
Private sector?
Yeah. Yeah.
You asking?
Yeah. I don't know, just...
We have some companies that like to give a scholarship like that. Several companies, but not many, right? Like recently it's Amazon. Amazon, they want to pay the tuition for 30 students. They pay the tuition full to us. But once the students graduated, they will work for Amazon. But there are not so many companies like that. So I expect actually, the problem is financing actually. Many students are willing to get the education, to get a better life, but they don't have money. You know the problem, right? So we need help on that. Okay, and then another, I mentioned, not so many corporations aware of that. They are also not willing to spend budget for that. They are more expecting the student pay themselves the education. After you are ready, you come to me and you get a job. Actually, the corporation should, active also, right, in solving these problems. We are lacking of good, skilled or talented employees. But then you have to finance, you have to spend budget with me, right? And then I will help you to do selection, to find the candidate, right? We both, like with Amazon, we both select the candidate to find the 30 candidates. So actually it's very selective. So the risk actually is reduced, right? By doing that evaluation in advance. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Purwa. Now I actually want to hear from Hyper 45. So before you're coming into Hyper, you're actually part of the COVID thing, everything is remote and whatnot. And for those of you that are actually looking for a job right now, what is actually your worries? What is actually your anxiety or anxiousness about going into a job? Because right now you're already finishing like, what, second term right now, right? Third term? Okay, so I'm pretty sure if you're looking for a job, you would start looking for one, right? So what is actually your worries? What is actually your, what you want or whatever? That's probably some of our panels actually can help you advise on, in a way, navigating in the workplace, because during COVID time, everyone is going remote. There's not much engagement and whatnot. So, what is actually your worry about finding a job after this? And you have to have your 45.
Yeah, my name is Jane, 45. I see the biggest worry for us is the whole economy. So now 2020, which is the interest rate is inversed. So lots of high-tech company already say hiring freeze. So the same time last year, lots of students already got job offer. But so far, progress not so promising. So the whole environment seems like it's very tough for us to find jobs.
Probably now that I'm going to ask the panelists my last question. It's actually because we've been hearing a lot of recession and so on and so forth, right? So what do you think they should do, or how should they prepare themselves after post-graduation?
You're talking about how do we prepare the graduates to get a job easily? Is that the question?
Because currently in the US or anywhere in the world, I guess, right now, there's been talk about recession, right? So one of the worries that the students have right now is during this recession, how can they navigate themselves so they can still find a job or whatnot?
So actually in my school, we have a special department, we call it Purwadhika Career Network. So actually what we are selling is not just an education, but it's a lifetime service. So we care about their career. So we have 1,000+ network, right? One thing I find out that in every recession, not everybody will go suffering. Some will be okay, right? Like during the pandemic, like Tokopedia, they grow fast, right? But some companies, they will go bankrupt. So I think in every difficulty, there are some that will be growing better, sometimes going worse, right? So the job is always available, okay? So because the fact, I think it's become giving us more stronger reason during the kind of tribulation like this for companies to do digital transformation. So once they're aware of that, actually the needs is will skyrocket. Okay, so we have a special department to really give 100% guarantee. If you graduate, I guarantee, but I do not guarantee you graduate. Something like that. Okay, that's a challenge. That's what I'm trying to sell actually. I'm not just selling education, because if we are talking, this is if I share the experience of mobile handphone. You know Nokia, right? Now Nokia is already, we don't know where, right? You know why? Because Nokia focus on technology, selling a better hardware, faster, but actually Apple concentrate on something else, providing application. You know why? Like Android, selling application. So right now, nowadays, no people will buy handphone because of, wow, the screen is very high resolution, oh, it's speed, very fast, but there's no apps. You know what I mean, right? So they will buy Apple because the application is abundant, like Instagram, everything. So the same way in education. We are not talking about selling the curriculum. oh, over there at the competitor, they do not teach this kind of thing. But over here, I teach this. No, I do not argue on that. I focus mainly on, I provide you with a bright future to get a definite good job. Then people, the students don't care about the curriculum. They are willing to follow whatever you set the rules. As long as the goal is guaranteed, I get a better job. Okay, no problem. So that's what I've been selling right now. I'm selling the future, not selling the education. Okay? So if people ask me whether I'm American-oriented with the curriculum, no, I'm industry-oriented. So whatever the industry that I want to support, I have to adapt with them. That's the only answer. I don't care whether it's British or American, but as long as my target company, okay, they say, I need this kind of talents, they need these skills, whatever, then I can fulfill that, then it's a guarantee of job placement. That's the way it works.
Yeah. Yes, I would say to Ivory students that are looking for the next job is, don't worry about this recession. There are so many companies that continue to thrive and will thrive. I don't even know why we're talking about a recession, really. I think we're talking ourselves into a recession. We have full employment in most markets around the world, most markets, full employment. And with supply chain issues, there's a shortage of goods. Why do we need a recession? Right? Let's not talk ourselves into it. And, but for all of us, bright, young graduates of IBER, the opportunities, I think, are endless. But find something that you're passionate about, where you feel like you're doing something meaningful for the world, and you will have a fulfilling career. I'm a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a global organization, 16,000 members, we're in 200 countries, and there's actually a very big entrepreneurs organization, two of them in Indonesia. And during COVID, which was what, the biggest recession we've seen, probably, was COVID, right? A lot of people's demand fell off a cliff. 80% of the businesses in EO, the entrepreneurs, thrived and grew during COVID because they found ways to navigate. The other 20 are probably back now because, you know, if you're a hotel or whatever, people are coming back too. So that's what I think about that.
Thank you. I hope that's helpful for the IBER 45. That is all for our session, I believe. Thank you so much.
Give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. More round of applause to our panelists. And we would like to kindly invite all of our honorable panelists to rise from your seats and take a place at the center of the stage as we will continue with our token of appreciation session. And to present the token of appreciation, we would like to kindly invite the representative of IBER student, Sylvie Park and JK. Little bit of word from you first.
On behalf of University of Southern California, Marshall School of Business, we prepare to talk about appreciation. Thank you for coming and sharing your insights.
Thank you very much, and we would like to kindly please for Sylvia Park and JK to present the token of appreciation to our panelists, Dr. Kopot, Bapak Purwa, Hartono, Mr. Ahmed, Shabana, and we already have a token, which is the digital token from Mr. Wilska. Thank you very much for making that digital. That's the Trojan value, yeah. Very fast, and it became digital right away, instantly. Thank you. Let's take a big group picture with a big smile on your face. And count of 3, Trojan sign, everybody. Hand sign. Yes. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Give a big round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen. To all of our distinguished panelists, you may return to your seat. And ladies and gentlemen, right after this, we will have the last but not least panelist. But before, we will take a short break, going to networking again, discuss everything one-on-one on our coffee break session. So the coffee and snacks already provided at the foyer area of this room. Don't go anywhere, and I will be back after this with our fourth panel session of financing and investing in the changing of Asia Pacific region. I'll see you soon.